Hello everyone, thank you for joining me again and welcome to any new viewers. This is To The Point English with Ben. I'm Ben. Now, over the last almost 2 years now, I've shared dozens of videos on YouTube which are full of tips on how to prepare for and pass the Cambridge English exams. Whether you're preparing for the B2 First, C1 Advanced or C2 Proficiency exams, you'll find plenty of tips in those videos. But today I wanted to talk about one particular tip that, although I have mentioned it in previous videos, I don't think I've emphasized the importance of it perhaps enough. And it's something that you can really all do, and it will really give you a much better chance of passing the exam and also getting a really high score. And that tip is to find a study buddy. Now, as I said, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but it's really over the last few months that I've really started to appreciate how important having a study buddy is. So when I say a study buddy, I'm talking about a friend, or not necessarily a friend, just anybody you know who is preparing for the same exam as you. Now, if you don't know anybody who's preparing for the same exam as you, which is possible, of course, then nowadays it's very easy to find someone through the internet. For example, there are Facebook groups or even my own Telegram groups. I have some free Telegram groups which you can join, and there are hundreds if not thousands of people there who are preparing for the Cambridge English exams. So it's quite easy to find someone nowadays to go through the preparation process with. And there are many advantages to this, and I'm going to speak about some of them now. The first advantage is that it's simply more fun. For most people, at least, it's more fun to go through this quite arduous, sometimes, preparation process for these tricky exams with a friend, or with at least somebody who is going through the same process as you, who can relate to the difficulties and the stresses. It can be quite stressful for some people. So if you just have somebody who is in the same boat as you, so going through the same experience, it can just make the whole process much more pleasant and enjoyable. And that's important for motivational purposes. You know, if you're doing it on your own, you're just on your own every night in your bedroom going through exercises, that's fine, but you will be much more likely to continue and find some continuity in your studies if you have another person to do it with, just because it's more fun. If something is more fun, we are more likely to do it. The second advantage, which is pretty obvious, I guess, but it's to practice the speaking paper together. That is so useful. I know there are many people who take the Cambridge English exams who have never practiced the speaking paper before because they just don't have anyone to speak with. And that is really difficult, because if the first time you experience that situation is in the exam, you're going to find it very difficult, because you're going to realize that it's very different in practice than it is in theory. What you can imagine it to be in your head is very different to the real situation when you're interacting with your partner, and it's quite an unnatural situation. So if you can practice with your partner, you'll be much better prepared, especially for that part of the exam. But also it's useful to have a partner to peer review your writing, so to speak. So if you do a writing task and you're not really sure if it's good enough, it's very difficult for you to judge your own writings or to mark your own writings. If you just ask a friend to have a look, maybe they don't have a higher level of English than you, but at least they can see things that perhaps you wouldn't see, and they can see it from a different perspective, slightly more objectively than you can. And the third and probably most important advantage to finding a study buddy to prepare with for the Cambridge English exams is called accountability. So what do we mean by accountability? Well, let's look at the Cambridge Dictionary definition, and that is the fact of being responsible for what you do and able to give a satisfactory reason for it. So in order to be accountable, you must have someone to be accountable to. So if you're studying on your own, and you're not telling anybody about your objectives or what you're going to do this week or today or what your goals are, then if you don't tell anybody that, then you don't have anybody to be accountable to, and there is no accountability. But you would be amazed how powerful accountability is as a tool to help you focus on, in this case, on your studies. So for example, if you want to practice the reading and use of English paper, and you need to look at all of the 8 parts for the C1 Advanced, for example, by the end of the month. Now, you could just say that to yourself, that that's an objective that you want to do, but it's much more likely that you will do that if you tell somebody else. So if you tell your study buddy that by the end of the month, I will have practiced and developed a strategy for every one of the 8 parts of the reading and use of English. And then perhaps at the end of that month, you can look at it together. You can meet with your study buddy, either in person or online, whatever, and you can go through all the 8 parts. Now, if you do that, you're almost certain to motivate yourself to sit down and look at the tasks. If you don't tell anybody, it's just it's up to you to find some intrinsic motivation. So just by telling someone, that increases the chances of you actually doing the task. But if you fix a meeting with someone so you can look at the task together, then it's highly likely that you will do it. This idea of accountability, very important, and a huge advantage if you can find a study buddy to give you that accountability. By the way, if you need some more help with your Cambridge English exam preparation, check out my online preparation courses. They're complete preparation courses, so in them I look at all the parts of the exam, every single part in detail, with sample exercises and quizzes to make sure you're paying attention. Okay, the 4th advantage of having a study buddy is quite a practical one, and that's you can share resources. And that's really useful if you think about it, because maybe you've bought 1 or 2 books to help you, and that's great. But if your partner has another 2 books, which are different books, then you have double the amount of exercises to go through. So if you can share these books or any other resources you may have, then you're going to have a lot more material which will help you pass the exam. And the last advantage to preparing for the exams with a study buddy is that you could learn new study methods, right? Maybe you have a particular method of studying that you've been using for years, maybe since school or whatever, and that works for you more or less, but maybe your study buddy has a slightly different approach, and maybe it's better, or maybe some of the approaches, some of the ideas that your study buddy has could be an improvement, or at least just a different perspective, and that's always good to have a different perspective, of course. So yeah, be open when you study with a study buddy to new ideas, just to really take your study and your preparation to the next level. Okay, I hope that helped you. Go out and find a study buddy now, or more than one. You don't have to limit it just to one study buddy, of course, but I don't recommend you find like a group of 30. That would get pretty complicated. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you very soon for another video. Bye.